Hey guys, Scott Fishman here. Today we have one of the emerging stars of Impact Wrestling. He's been tearing it up in Impact Wrestling all over the world as well. Speedball Mike Bailey, how you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for the time. I just really appreciate your story. Just as far as like when it came to wrestling and the world shut down, use that time and you weren't able to get into US. You really used that time to kind of build a name for yourself. And then when you really signed with Impact Wrestling, I think that kind of I feel like I'm a firm believer in everything happening for a reason. So tell me just when in retrospect, like looking back, do you feel like the timing worked right because you had that experience before going into Impact rather as opposed to not having it? And kind of gave you that renewed appreciation and that passion for what you were doing. So take me just through as you're looking back now and just everything that you've been through, just the timing of everything.
I mean, the question that I get a lot, right, is do you think things worked out for the best? Like, do you think you would have been you think you're better because, well, if you're not familiar with the story, I was unable to wrestle in the US for 5 years, right? Then that's kind of as of 2016 where I was wrestling in Evolve and CZW and PWG, where a lot of the people that I was sharing locker rooms with in a lot of those promotions shortly thereafter, very, very shortly. I mean, if you look at some of the 2016, 2015 PWG cards that I was on, it was, me, the Young Bucks, Adam Cole, Evil Uno, Kyle O'Reilly, Zack Sabre Jr., Walter, all of the biggest TV stars right now. Uh, but the thing is, it's honestly hard to say. The one thing that I'm certain of is that I'm perfectly okay with the way things are now. I think I think I did the best I could with what I was given, and I think I made it work. And I'm with Impact Wrestling, and I couldn't be happier, and things are going absolutely well. However, there is this other possibility where I was able to continue wrestling in the US after 2016, and I started making millions of dollars by 2018, and I was able to retire and move to a giant home in the Bahamas by 2022. That also could have happened. However, we will never know. All we can do is be grateful.
Right, exactly. As far I'm just curious, what are your when you're classified technically as an X division wrestler. So what did it mean to you? Because it meant a lot to me being a longtime fan, seeing Alex Shelley winning that world title. It was so unexpected, not because of his ability, just something that we saw the momentum building with Macklin that maybe we didn't see that as a possibility, but you're seeing that, you're seeing Chris Sabin. You've worked with both being backstage for that moment and just what they meant to the X division, where it's like no limits, no weight limits, things like that, and helps elevate them to the next level. And with you such a part of the X division, how does that mean? What does that mean to you to kind of see that happening?
Well, I mean, I think that's kind of the story of the X division, right? There's a style, there are expectations, but also we've seen many, many times people be able to transcend those expectations. I mean, there's been there's option C for a reason, right? There's been many, many times where X division champions have challenged for the Impact World Champion and even gone on to win it quite a few times. Uh, but I think so. Alex Shelley specifically is a huge influence to everyone at Impact and everyone in professional wrestling. Alex Shelley as an individual and the Motor City Machine Guns. So to see him finally win that Impact World Championship was, of course, a great moment and truly one of the most deserved championship victories in recent memory in professional wrestling. But yeah, no, the X division I truly believe has a long history of the best wrestlers in the world performing in that division. And I think it's kind of at the cornerstone of Impact Wrestling, and it is what helps set Impact Wrestling as a whole apart, is the fact that they are, historically, even looking back at WCW and its cruiserweight division, right? In retrospect, some of the greatest WCW matches and some of the greatest wrestlers were, in the cruiserweight division that was kind of just like left to the back, short matches early in the show. then we move on. But that was never the case with Impact Wrestling and the X Division. I mean, the X Division was, the audience loved it, and Impact embraced that and put it at the forefront many, many times.
Mhm.
And I think that's why, you've seen some of the best wrestlers in the world, that have either are in the X Division or have been in the X Division at a certain point in time.
Yep, no doubt. As far as when I think about your matches, your body of work, always so incredible your matches. One in particular we look back as is Josh Alexander. I see that kind of as a moment that really solidified yourself. Do you feel that kind of really showed your potential as being a main event performer and someone to be dependent on with the company? I mean, what was that reaction for you when people saw and then the response that you got from it?
I think you're absolutely right. I think the interesting thing about that match is that there is absolutely no surprise to me with how it went and how it was received. And since signing with Impact Wrestling, that is the match I wanted, right? Josh Alexander and I have wrestled each other many, many times before Impact Wrestling. I mean, in Canada for years. In fact, the match that got me signed on to Impact Wrestling was a main event match at Destiny in Toronto against Josh Alexander. And after the match, Scott D'Amore offered me an Impact contract that I literally signed off of his back, right? So
Symbolism there.
yeah, a lot of it, but also a big part of the decision for me to join Impact was seeing the kind of matches that Josh Alexander was having over there and seeing, what he was doing, and like feeling like that's what I want to do. That's the kind of wrestling that I want to do, and those are the kind of matches I want to have. So when we did have to wrestle for nearly an hour, I mean, to me, it just felt right. Of course, it was difficult, but it was exactly what I wanted. And looking back on it, I feel like no matter how well this would have been received, this match was only part of the story for me and Josh Alexander, and we have a lot more left in the tank together.
And then from there, I feel like there is a trust that Impact showed by putting you in a match with Tanahashi just a couple of months ago, and just that was a main event like of Multiverse United, the first one. So I think that was kind of a big deal and an example of what they see for you in the future, and as a representative of this company. Is that kind of how you took it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I gave the answer to many a podcast, in many an interview for many years, in terms of who are my dream opponents. I would say John Cena and Hiroshi Tanahashi, because if I'm wrestling either of them, it means that I am doing very, very well, right? In terms of how your career is going. I mean, Hiroshi Tanahashi is the ace of New Japan. He represents that company. He is the face. And the fact that Impact, in what is a huge show for them in Multiverse United, would put me against him and choose me to represent them against the ace of New Japan, I mean, of course, that means a lot. And it was an absolute honor to share the ring with Tanahashi, who is a complete master at the art of professional wrestling. Truly incredible.
We have Multiverse United 2 coming up in August, a couple months away still. Do you have let's put it out in the universe. Do you have a dream opponent if you're on the card?
I have three.
Okay.
I have three matches that I would like. One is an IWGP Junior Heavyweight title shot against Hiromu Takahashi, because he is the current IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, and I did beat him as part of the Best of the Super Juniors tournament, of which I was a part. And that means that I am owed a title shot, and I think Philly would be a great place to do that. The other one is last year, before my match with Hiroshi Tanahashi was announced, I was scheduled to face Will Ospreay, who then was removed with an injury. This would have been my fifth match with Will Ospreay, all of which have been absolutely amazing, but this would have been the first one in the United States, and I feel like the universe still owes me that match. Another match that I would absolutely love because I think he had, to me, he was the MVP of the Best of the Super Juniors tournament in Japan, and that is El Desperado, who was the other semifinalists. I made it to the semifinals where I lost to Master Wato. He lost to Titan, but I think he absolutely put on some of the most impressive matches out of that whole tournament. And he and I got to share the ring on the same team just a little bit in my last day of that tour. And I would love a singles match.
You gave that a lot of thought. I'm a sucker for love stories, and I just love the idea that, you and Veda, you got married, but for so long you were apart and everything was virtual and things, and then now you guys are together. And just talk to me, just how is it, how has life changed for you, or how is it having someone in the industry? I mean, just talk about that kind of relationship and just what she's meant as far as with your career as you're kind of blowing up now with Impact.
Veda and I love professional wrestling. We're alike in a lot of ways, which helped a lot. But Veda absolutely loves professional wrestling, which is not a given for all professional wrestlers. I mean, I'm sure you've interviewed quite a few who don't really watch it, don't really like it, which is okay. It's a job for a lot of people, and that's fine. But Veda and I absolutely love it, and we've always been able to talk about it. And we've always kind of met within that passion, and it's been amazing to get to share that with them, and I have become a much better person, but a much better pro wrestler because of Veda, and because we see it the same way and get to bounce ideas together. And like, Veda really pushed me. The circumstances of a relationship initially really pushed me to take my career to in a much different direction. So when I couldn't come to the US, right? Veda lived in the US, so we had to work really, really, really hard in order to find places where we could be together. And we traveled, we would book tours for ourselves in Europe, and we've been in Japan together and traveled to Canada, and that's really helped me cultivate a worldwide presence that I think is responsible for my success now. But I think Veda is a huge part of that. And now, since 2022, we've both been living in the US together, and my career with Impact Wrestling has really taken off. And Veda, going from being a wrestler to mostly being a pro wrestling announcer, being in, doing some work with Impact Wrestling and with AEW, and most recently with New Japan Pro Wrestling, where they got to do commentary for Mercedes Moné matches in Los Angeles, and watching Veda really grow as a commentator alongside with my career emergence as a wrestler recently, and all that coinciding with us getting married last year has been really, it's been a huge bonus. My wrestling career is a blessing to begin with, but the fact that I have someone to share all of this with just makes it all even better.
Is there anything you guys do outside of wrestling to kind of escape? What's your big thing that you guys like to do together? Is it just watch a movie or what?
So that's the weird thing, is that we'd never feel the need to escape from professional wrestling. Like, our lives are into it, and we love to travel, but very often that travel is tied into professional wrestling. Our favorite thing is to, we'll pick a booking somewhere, let's say in I don't know, in we'll have a booking in LA on Sunday, and we'll purposefully get a flight that comes back on Tuesday morning, so we get to spend the extra day and go somewhere. And so we end up traveling a lot with that. This past weekend, we did shows in Rhode Island on Wednesday, Pottsville, Pennsylvania on Thursday, New York City on Friday, Pittsburgh on Saturday, and North Carolina on Sunday. And we drove through all of it, drove back home on Monday.
Wow.
And it was just the most fun. You know what I mean? You'd feel like, oh my God, the road is difficult, but no, the road is easy and fun when we're together.
Still in that honeymoon phase. Um, Lastly, we have Slammiversary coming up. Put in perspective, it's a thought of anniversaries. Talk about what you see yourself, a long-term plan with the company. Just the goals, obviously, winning championships and things like that, but maybe something that we're not thinking of that you kind of have set aside for as far as milestones and things like that.
Well, I mean, it's hard to have concrete goals given how rapidly everything is changing and evolving. But if you look at last year's Slammiversary, that was the biggest moment imaginable, right? I won the X Division Championships in an Ultimate X match at the 20-year Slammiversary. I would really like to top that this year. And however I do that, I will top it again the next year and continue to do so until they physically stop me. But that is my plan. I mean, much like the X Division, I set no limits for myself. I just want every event to be better than the last for me. I want every year to be better than the last. I want every match to be better than the last.
Awesome. Speedball, anything you want to say as far as where people can find you? Anything that you're excited about that, besides Impact coming up, you want to let people know about?
Yeah. Well, mostly thank you all for watching and thank you for sharing, right? The world of professional wrestling on a global scale is relatively small. And I think people often underestimate the power of their words and how much saying that you like something can help. So all I ask is go watch Impact Wrestling. There's a lot of free matches. Go on YouTube and type in Speedball Mike Bailey Impact Wrestling in the search bar. If you haven't watched the match, watch it. Share it. If you enjoy it, share it, leave a comment, and that always makes a much bigger difference than you can imagine.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the time again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Bye bye.